Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here, back with another detailed update on Tropical Storm Idalia, as this is likely to rapidly intensify into a very powerful Category 3 hurricane, potentially reaching Florida as maybe even a Category 4 hurricane by early Wednesday morning, bringing flooding, damaging winds, and life-threatening storm surge. We will break down all those details in today's update. So to start things off, here's a look at the very latest IR satellite imagery provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com. There will be a link in the description below this video where you can view these satellite images 100% for free. And what we're seeing right now is very cold, explosive cloud tops, with these tops reaching temperatures as cold as -80, -82 degrees Celsius, which is very cold, very high up, and we're getting a lot of latent heat release. And this means that the system is trying to better organize and intensify. Here's a closer zoomed in view on the mesofloater satellite imagery, again provided by dropsode.com. And yeah, in the last few frames here, we can see some very explosive convection right about in here. See that new burst of boiling convection means, again, upward motion is accelerating. We're starting to get things to organize with that inner core structure, and I do not see any signs that the center is exposed at all and is completely underneath where a lot of this deep convection actually is located. But nevertheless, there is still some shear on the system. So looking at the very latest Cuban or Cuba radar, we're looking at the Doppler. And if we kind of look at this a little bit more closely, we're going to loop this. You can see what might appear to be a little bit of an eye wall that might be forming on the southeastern, southern, and eastern quadrants of the circulation. Not much going on the northern side. That's not because we're not seeing a lot of deep convection. We're seeing a lot of that deep convection and thunderstorm activity to the southeastern quadrant, which means that there is still some shear that is impacting Idalia at the moment. But guess what? That's going to be abating once we get into the next 12 to 24 hours. I'm doing things a little different today. We're showing you the NHC first, and then we're going to be going into deeper detail on how strong could this actually get than what the NHC is indicating. So looking at the latest graphic here from the NHC for 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time, this is the intermediate advisory. We have hurricane warnings up for Western Cuba. There is catastrophic, or not catastrophic necessarily, but life-threatening impacts here, heavy rainfall, strong winds, and then eventually by Wednesday morning, hurricane warnings are up for the Big Bend of Florida, because this could be a major hurricane, or will be a major hurricane according to the NHC. We have tropical storm warnings up for Tampa, for Cape Coral, Florida, including for Key West, Florida, where a tropical storm watch has been issued, including for Jacksonville, Florida, under that watch also. So now, I want to make something clear here. Even so, this is going to be a major hurricane right at landfall. We could even see this become a major hurricane well before landfall, probably by tomorrow afternoon or evening. Something that we will have to monitor on the exact progression of Tropical Storm Idalia. And I would even be surprised if this is even a hurricane right now. I know it says 70 miles an hour, but given that inner, or that core, that inner core trying to form, we might see a hurricane in the next advisory. Does not surprise me whatsoever. So now, what are the flood risks issued for Idalia? Well, we have a moderate risk for flash flooding now for Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington, in the Carolinas. This is a big deal. Big deal. We could see a high risk of flooding out of this too, because we could be looking at storm surge. We could be looking at coastal flooding for sure. That's what storm surge is. And of course, we could be talking about a foot of rainfall somewhere along this moderate risk for flooding or heavy rainfall, which would really be a big problem. Storm surge on top of freshwater flooding could exacerbate the flood concerns even more than what they should, or what they normally would be, if it wasn't for the storm surge. We also have a slight risk for flooding and heavy rainfall for Chattanooga, for Knoxville, for Atlanta, for Birmingham, for Charlotte. If you're in Raleigh, Roanoke, Richmond, Norfolk, under a slight risk for heavy rainfall. Tallahassee, as well as Tampa Bay and Cape Coral, definitely need to be on the lookout for this system because some of the flood risks could go up. So now, how much rainfall can you all be expected, or how much rainfall might fall in the next 1 to 5 days? Well, if you look at northern Florida, there could be anywhere between 6 to maybe 10 inches of rainfall, and I will show you proof of that in a little while on the NAM 3-kilometer model. Including for Charleston, Savannah might get 4 to 6 inches of rain. Wilmington, maybe 6 to 10 inches. Cape Hatteras, maybe 6 to 10 inches. So it's not only the damaging winds, storm surge that will come with this, including high surf. We're also looking at some intense, phenomenal, exceptional rainfall, epic rainfall proportions in this portion of the southeast. Now, something new that I wanted to show you all from the NHC is the storm surge forecast. We're looking at anywhere between 7 to 11 feet. Yeah, 7 to 11 feet across the Big Bend of Florida. If you're in Anclot River, maybe 4 to 7 feet. If you're in Eaglewood, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Indian Pass, 2 to 4 feet. If you're across the mouth of the St. Mary's River, you can get 2 to 4 feet of storm surge. Charlotte Harbor, 2 to 4 feet as well. Tampa Bay, maybe 4 to 7 feet of storm surge. That will cause some flooding, some beach erosion, along to go with high surf. We're going to see some coastal or life-threatening to potentially catastrophic coastal impacts. So now another thing I want to all show you now to the scientific detail of this video will be the models. We know the NHC wants 115 mile an hour winds at landfall, but is there a potential that Idalia could become a Category 4 hurricane? Well, let's move through this model run and show you on the HWRF, and I will be comparing 3 different hurricane models for you all, because that's my job, is to make sure I am presenting very accurate, honest, truthful information without any serious hype or anything like that. Okay, so for Tuesday morning, actually for this afternoon, this is what the system looks like. Again, not very organized, or, we're not seeing hurricane force winds yet. Now, there's an outside chance that could happen still. We'll find out from the recon aircraft. Anywhere between 70 to 75 miles an hour would be the sure bet with where we're at with Idalia right now. So it's going to be passing across western Cuba tonight, and then by tomorrow, it's going to be moving through the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, which at time, this could explosively intensify. The shear, the moisture, or the shear is going to decrease. The moisture is going to increase through the deep layers and surrounding the environment. And we're going to have a very intense system to contend with here. So by Tuesday night, August the 30th, by the way, so again, this is the morning hours across the Florida Eastern Standard Time or Daylight Time Zone, 953 millibars with winds that could be at 90 knots. So that would be a Category 2 hurricane on the HWRF model. But look at this. This could intensify even right when it makes landfall. And essentially, until it makes landfall, this is going to intensify. We could be looking at a Category 4 hurricane at landfall with winds that could reach between 113 to 120 knots, which would be about 127 to about 140 miles an hour. And the pressure there, 931 millibars. Very, very intense. Catastrophic damage possible according to the latest HWRF model on Idalia. Okay, and look at these winds. These winds are, These winds are going to be going onshore. So you can imagine all the storm surge is going to be piling up here across the Big Bend of Florida. And storm surge is nature's number 1 or 2 killer that can really cause a lot of fatalities if not taken seriously. Now, once this moves over Georgia, weakening will commence. This is for Thursday, early Thursday morning. Now, when this makes landfall, could be looks like early Wednesday morning, maybe later in the day, Wednesday into early Wednesday afternoon. So the timing of this has backed off considerably, as we can see here on the last few model runs, going slower and trending slower, which could be big trouble ahead, allowing the system to hang over the Gulf maybe for 2 days, allowing for rapid intensification as this moves offshore. Now, I wanted to show you all the HAFS A model. This is another model that I like to use. Spoiler alert there, by the way. So this model particularly indicates that this could be a hurricane already with 969 millibars. Probably not the case. I don't think it's that strong right now, but it is very close of being that. But then it weakens a little bit as it passes over or very close to Cuba. Now, once this moves over the southeastern Gulf, by Tuesday, it's going to intensify fairly quickly here at 951 millibars with a landfall right here. Versus the H-Wharf had a landfall right here. And if we go even back and compare that with you all, so you can see what I mean, there is the landfall point right here, potentially right there in Florida. In fact, if we bring up Google Maps really quick, I just wanted to show you all some detailed locations, since again, my job here is to provide the best accurate information. So Newport, if you're in Hampton Springs, again, Appalachia Bay, please just be aware, again, a landfall could be on your doorstep if this is not taken seriously enough. So now that we talked about that, now the landfall over here on the HAFS A is further south, over Horseshoe Beach, potentially over, say, Cedar Key, St. Augustine, the aquatic area, could see a landfall on the HAFS A. Now let's look at the HAFS B run, and again, different initializations mean different things. So this model indicates that it could be a hurricane for sure by Tuesday morning, and then maybe some pretty extensive intensification here, making landfall right within this area. So pretty good cluster of models here indicating somewhere in the Big Bend at a 926 millibar system, which is, oh man, that's a big deal. That is certainly a deal and a half. And again, I don't like using hype words here, but this could become a Cat 4 without a surprise. We got to watch that, and I'll show you here why I think that could still happen based on the atmosphere and sea surface temperatures. Now, we have one more model that I wanted to show you all, and this is the this is the NAM 3-kilometer model. I know it's not a hurricane-specific model that's trained for these things, but look at how strong it could make landfall over the Big Bend, right in that area too, with winds that could be 120 knots, 140 knots. This would be a high-end Category 4, even a low-end Category 5 hurricane. Now, again, this is the worst-case scenario, and I repeat, worst-case scenario. It's only one model, folks. Okay, I want to make that clear. But I would tell you what, if the NAM is correct, we would be dealing with a Cat 5 hurricane at landfall, which would be total devastation, catastrophic impacts, unsurvivable impacts with the system. Now, here's a look at the rainfall forecast on the radar, and we can see maybe some of these outer bands approaching, say, Tampa, Florida. If you are in Cape Coral in Florida, this is going to be right around 4 p.m. on Tuesdays. So tomorrow afternoon, just after your lunch, you can see some heavy rainfall, some thunderstorms with this. And then that rain band approaches northern Florida. Now, it really isn't until we get into Tuesday night, Tuesday night and a Wednesday early morning. This would be about 2 in the morning, Eastern Daylight Time, when light to moderate rainfall does arrive with Idalia, weirder name to say, tongue twister, but you get the idea. We're looking at some very intense rainfall rates. Look at this right here. Dark red colors, magenta. That is insanity. Definitely some flooding that will occur with this, without a doubt. And this will impact definitely the Carolinas as potentially, like I said, as a strong tropical storm or a low-end hurricane. And when we actually look back at this, you can see the 18Z run is out, by the way. It's rendering. Look at this. Lots of rainfall over the South Carolina region which again could lead to a lot of flooding. Here's the rainfall forecast really quickly on the NAM 3-kilometer model, and you can clearly illustrate with what I'm saying. 6 to maybe 12 inches of rainfall. Some of these areas here isolated could get 12 plus inches of rainfall. That will be enough to cause a lot of life-threatening flooding, storm surge, damaging winds, that sort of thing. So now, why do I think that this could become a Cat 4 hurricane? And maybe even a high-end one, right? I don't think a Cat 5 is going to happen. I don't believe so. That is way over the top. But a Cat 4, certainly a possibility. Maybe even a 150-mile-an-hour system is also on the deck of cards too. The reason why being is, like, the system is going to be moving over. So let's just say this is the cone of uncertainty. It is going to be transversing a lot of upper ocean heat content with sea surface temperatures at the surface that are 31 Celsius. There's even a patch here of water temperatures that are near 32 Celsius. Look at the shelf waters here of the Big Bend approaching 32 Celsius. So yeah, I mean, this is octane fuel for this system. And I mean, if everything comes together perfectly we're not looking at a whole lot of shear here, this has a very high ceiling of reaching at least a Cat 4 hurricane. A Cat 5 seems highly unlikely at the moment, but I mean, you cannot underestimate these things. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this does become a Cat 5. Maybe we're witnessing or forecasting a Cat 5 this whole time. We just don't know. But what we do know is this will be a major hurricane at landfall in the Big Bend of Florida. And I'll tell you what, the impacts will be catastrophic. So now, upper ocean heat content, the reason why is the system's right about in here. So high upper ocean heat content, system's going to be doing this, okay? Look at all this upper ocean heat content that it's going to be transversing through Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. The next 24 hours for this system could be very critical. A lot of upper ocean heat content, sea surface temperatures, low shear. We're talking about a lot of moisture, and I'm telling you, it's not looking good. I wish I could speak better about this and be like, it's not going to become a major hurricane. But, I mean, I'm not liking this. I truly am not liking with what I'm seeing here on the hurricane models. All of them indicating a major hurricane, at least in some degree, especially the H-Wharf and the HAFS-B output showing definitely a major hurricane. So therefore, I think there's going to be a ceiling on this, and it would be a 4. Great example is Hurricane Franklin. Brief update on this system, you all. Again, this is my job at providing you guys some detailed information. I can't forget about Franklin, since it has a very well-defined eye with a very intense-looking whirlpool effect, stadium effect, which means winds are probably at 150, 155 miles an hour, maybe even a Category 5 hurricane at this point, with a very well-defined symmetrical CDO surrounding the clear eye. And look at that sky blue there. There's not much cloud cover in the eye itself, which means this is definitely more stronger than what is being indicated. Right now, the NHC has this right now at the moment at a Category 4 with 145 mile an hour winds. Again, it could be 155 miles an hour tonight or even 160 miles an hour. Regardless of how strong this is going to get close enough to Bermuda as there's a tropical storm watch issued for that area. So please, folks, take this seriously. And yes, surf along the eastern seaboard will be life-threatening. We're talking wave heights 10 to 15 feet with a major hurricane like this. So please take this into consideration. If you're going to the beaches in North Carolina or Virginia, please don't. It's going to be very dangerous. And I will be extra nice and show you all the wave forecast along the coast of Florida. Okay, so let's go to significant wave height and swells. And we're going to go to the northwest Atlantic view. And look at these waves. I mean, we're looking at 7 to maybe 10 feet. Maximum individual wave height here could reach 16 to 18 feet high. So yes, some big waves here, including for Bermuda. Look at Bermuda. Could get 18 to 25 foot waves with maximum individual wave heights that could surpass 45 to 50 feet. So just showing you the power of the ocean is going to be fairly life-threatening. I wanted to show you all this, since you guys are awesome, that we have Recon, an upper-level Dropsode mission out on this. Over the Gulf Coast, helping to feed these global computer models. So we should see more corrections coming out for the 0Z runs from the HWRF and the GFS, which, by the way, the GFS has this at a 950 millibar system. Well, anyways, I sure hope this video helped you out a lot, folks. If it did, please consider subscribing. It really, really means a lot, folks. I try my best at providing the most accurate weather information as much as possible. I will do a live stream starting early in the morning. We're going to be covering the whole 9 yards on Idalia tomorrow. We're going to do a flight simulator mission into the system. It's going to be cool, followed by actual real-time information in the evening hours, flying into or taking a look at what latest recon missions have. Similar to what we did with Ian. You remember that coverage, right? It's going to be just as good, if not better. Hope to see you all there tomorrow. But otherwise, thank you all for watching. Share, like, and subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with another live discussion on this system.